Every year, India graduates more engineers than any other country in the world. The figure comes from national education surveys and global data sets, and it puts India ahead of China and the United States by a wide margin. But when you look at the companies that define global hardware, Apple, Samsung, TSMC, Intel, Nvidia, India is not where those companies were built. This contrast has shaped India's technology story for decades. In the early years after independence, India invested heavily in public sector manufacturing. Large factories were state-owned, centrally planned, and protected from global competition. Over time, many of them became inefficient and financially fragile.
The damage to property is estimated at over 20 million rupees. There is no casualty, but over 6,000 workers are rendered jobless and need to be rehabilitated.
When economic liberalization began in the early 1990s, the country pivoted sharply. Instead of doubling down on heavy manufacturing, India leaned into services. Software and IT exports offered a faster return. They required less capital, fewer physical assets, and far fewer regulatory hurdles. Companies like Infosys, TCS, and Wipro grew by exporting talent rather than products. Code could be written anywhere. Engineers could be trained at scale. Growth was limited more by people than by infrastructure. At the same time, other countries were investing in manufacturing systems that would take decades to mature. In Taiwan, semiconductor production was treated as national infrastructure. Government-backed research institutions worked closely with private firms, laying the groundwork for what would become TSMC, a company that now manufactures the majority of the world's most advanced chips. In South Korea, industrial policy focused on building export-oriented conglomerates. Samsung and LG received sustained financial support, protection during early failures, and access to long-term capital. China followed a different model altogether. Beginning in the late 1990s, entire regions were built around production. Cities like Shenzhen became dense manufacturing ecosystems where suppliers, assembly plants, ports, and logistics firms operated within hours of each other. India never developed manufacturing at that scale or speed. Engineering education expanded rapidly, but it was largely disconnected from industry. Most colleges emphasized theoretical knowledge and standardized testing. Hands-on exposure to fabrication, tooling, or industrial production remained limited. As a result, engineering graduates entered an economy where the most reliable jobs were in software. Hardware demanded far more. Factories required massive upfront investment. Semiconductor fabs cost billions and take years to break even. Production depended on uninterrupted power, water, transport, and regulatory stability. India's financial system was cautious. Banks, shaped by earlier industrial failures, were reluctant to fund large manufacturing projects. Venture capital favored startups that could scale quickly and exit faster. Even when hardware companies did emerge, progress was slow. Components were imported, customs delays added uncertainty, land acquisition stalled expansion. Infrastructure gaps amplified small setbacks into serious risks. Policy ambition existed, but execution often fell short. Manufacturing reforms were announced repeatedly, but implementation varied across states. Logistics costs remained higher than in East Asia. Supply chains struggled to scale smoothly. In the past decade, this has begun to change. Under Narendra Modi, manufacturing returned to the center of economic policy. Incentive programs targeted electronics, batteries, and semiconductors. Global companies expanded assembly operations in India. But assembling products is not the same as owning the technology. The most valuable parts of the hardware supply chain, chip design, advanced fabrication, precision tooling, still lie outside the country. These capabilities are built slowly, through sustained investment and repeated failure. Economists and industrial researchers often arrive at the same conclusion. Hardware leadership is not created by talent alone. It emerges when education, finance, infrastructure, and policy evolve together over decades. India's engineers were never the limiting factor. They entered a system optimized for exporting skills rather than building machines. where software offered speed and safety and hardware demanded patience and risk. The result is an economy deeply embedded in global technology, but rarely in control of it. India will continue to produce engineers. Whether it produces the next generation of hardware giants depends on how long it is willing to invest in the systems behind them.